Mr. James J. Marlow is a West Asia analyst. He is now joining us live from London. Mr. Marlow, thank you very much for making time for us and welcome to this program. How do you assess the entire situation in Israel's Supreme Court today as the hearing on Shin Bet's chief future is still underway?
Nice to be with you again, Eric. Nice to see you. What you've just shown over there clearly is the two very diverse opinions within Israeli society and also within the Jewish world worldwide, because there's a lot of people around the world who have many connections with Israel and feel very sad about this. To look at this from an outside point of view and to try and make this or to simplify this, I would suggest the following, that there are two main camps in Israel. And that was seen just a few years ago by Israel having 5 general elections, unprecedented, 5 general elections in less than 3.5 years. Now, in November 2022, one of those camps won. It was the pro-Netanyahu camp against the anti-Netanyahu camp. And that's why they've been in power for 2 years and intend to stay in power for another 2 years. The problem has arisen is that those people who did not vote for one of those many political parties, and there was about 47 of them that ran, and there's a coalition, of course, that is headed by Netanyahu, made up of 5 different political parties, 2 on the right, the Likud party, centre to right, and 2 religious parties. Those who oppose this oppose the government and everything that it stands for. And what people have said is, well, that's fine, you're entitled to it, it's democracy, but you have to wait till the next general election comes along, which is due in October 2026. Now, what we have today is that the 5 political parties that today make up the coalition of the Israeli government actually campaigned for a judicial reform. In other words, that they said out of the 3 branches of government in Israel, the executive, the parliament, and the judiciary has to change. And the reason why all 5 of those parties said that is because that the government and the parliament and the executive is answerable to the judiciary, but the judiciary is not answerable to anyone else. And there were those in Israel that said that it has too much power. It has literally 50% of the power, whereas the government and the elected executive, the ones who are running the country, only have about 25%. Now, what's interesting is why
Mr. Marlow, let me come in here because there's a lot that you have, put on inside there. Let's talk about this divide, because we are seeing a deep divide between people who are backing Netanyahu's decision and those who are accusing him of abuse of power. It has raised a serious question on independence of institutions, like you were trying to say there. What do you make of this going forward? How will Israel act or react in the coming future? Make it brief.
Well, what I was just about to say, this might be helpful to your viewers, is believe it or not, the opposition members all campaigned themselves for a judicial reform. In other words, that they said it was unfair, that the 9-member committee that chooses its judges is wrong and it needs to be updated. The problem is that they don't want this particular elected government to do it. They don't want the Netanyahu government to claim responsibility for it. So they're waiting for the next general election. And I actually have a video on my phone, which is the leader of the opposition, Yair Lapid, who holds 24 seats with his Yesh Atid party. He openly made a speech in 2018 to say that the whole system and how we elect, meaning the Israelis, elect judges, has to be changed. But now he opposes it because he didn't win the election. And that's where it stems from. So you have those people on the left who are saying Netanyahu is trying to make Israel, a democratic country, become undemocratic because he's standing for some indictments against him and he's going to change the judges. Of which the right say, no, you can't change the judges because the case has already started and it's been going for 5 years. So those judges are in place. And I personally think, having spoken to so many Israelis about this, even in the last few days, I think that so many people on both sides do not have enough information to understand the other side's point of view. And if they would just simply listen to the other side and hear where the disagreements are, perhaps they could all come together. But I was just going to finally say on this point is that the 5 political parties today in Israel that make up the government coalition all won. They claim that they won the election based on the fact that they were going to change the way the system is actually set up. In other words, how they select judges. And it's a little bit of a fine change in instead of having about 7 or 8 judges making the decisions and appointing their own people, the ones that they like, the system is going to be changed to having 3 justices, 2 lawyers, 2 members of Knesset, and then 2 members that represent the government. Now, the opposition say this is unfair because whoever wins the election has the overall power. But that's how many countries operate.
All right, Mr. James Marlowe, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for talking to us today.
Thank you very much.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.